Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. As you know, I don't hold many press conferences. I prefer to do the work that counts behind the scenes, but this is just too important. I want to start by making one thing very clear. We are not here today asking for any kind of rush to reopen. All of us here believe that public health and safety must always be our top priority. What we are asking for is for the rules set by the state to be applied fairly across the board, for the state to communicate clearly with these businesses, and for the state to release the guidelines they desperately need to reopen safely. If the state has a legitimate scientific reason for keeping a business closed, then it needs to communicate that and give the businesses an opportunity to address the concern. If the state still believes they can't safely reopen, then it needs to step up and provide them with immediate financial support. That means using some of the billions of dollars in unused CARES Act dollars to create a relief fund to support flexible grants these businesses can use to pay bills, support employees, cover the costs of modifications they've made to try to keep up with the state's changing expectations. Because the bills don't stop, even if the state who put you on pause. When Albany released its reopening plan, it came in only 4 phases. The Hudson Valley has been in phase 4 now for over a month, yet thousands of employees and employers from across the state are still without answers. When it comes to reopening them, Albany has rewritten the rules more than once, each time blindsiding the thousands of employers and employees who have been diligently doing their part to keep our community safe and healthy. These are real people with real families to support, and that's what today's event is really about. Later today, the state will be holding a hearing on COVID-19's impact on the workforce, and that is critically important. But we don't need a hearing to examine the impact the state's inaction is having on these industries. They are drowning. Every day that goes by, every inquiry to the state that goes unresolved is another day their employees are out of work and they go deeper and deeper into debt. And they're not the only ones here today who are being hurt by the inaction. These businesses are major economic drivers in our region, providing real revenue to local governments to help them provide the critical services that we need and to help hold the line on local property taxes. Their indefinite closure will have a ripple effect that the state cannot afford to ignore. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our Dutchess County Executive, Mark Molinaro, who is going to talk about the very real consequences this inaction is having on our local governments. Good morning, Marcus. I think we're just unmuting him, Marcus.
He is on, he's just unmuting.
Okay. Is it? Yeah, Marcus, can you hear me?
Yes, I apologize. For whatever reason, couldn't hear you before. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly fine. Good morning, and thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Is it my turn?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, Marcus.
I apologize for that. I had a technical difficulty. This is what happens when I don't ask people for assistance. Listen, first, I want to thank you, Senator, and certainly all those who are with us this morning. You have been steadfast in really your support of local small businesses in particular over these last several months. I think we all recognize that we have to be sensitive to public health and to safety, and we are certainly concerned about all those things. In fact, the counties of the Mid-Hudson region took action pretty quickly when we were first confronted by COVID-19 to really engage in this effort to slow the spread and flatten the curve. We did all and are doing all the things that the federal government, the state government expects of us, and quite frankly, our people, public health and private health employees and workforces have been out responding to this pandemic, and I'd like to offer. I certainly understand personally the human toll of this disease. We are now months into the reopening of New York State. We have maintained as a state below basically 1 or below 1% transmission and positivity, if you will. And yet here we are weeks into what was to have been the final phase of reopening, and there's a whole host of businesses that you identify today that still have absolutely no guidance. And from our perspective as a county, we want to balance the public health and certainly the risk against the safe measures that businesses can take and still be reopened. It is not acceptable today to have no guidance on gyms, no guidance on theaters, no guidance on wedding venues, and run the gamut. At the very least, these businesses deserve to know what the expectations are from the state, allow them to begin the process, and some already have, of making the appropriate investments to prepare to reopen, and then give some sort of indication and timeline as to when and how they will reopen to manage public safety. So I will say, from the county's public health perspective, we believe the businesses we talk about today can safely reopen with precautionary steps. As a gym goer, I'll just highlight that we know both the public and mental health needs that gyms provide. We know that they can be open safely. We've seen it occur in other states. We're monitoring the transmission rates in other states that have been careful in reopening, and New York has been careful in reopening. We know that it is safer to be in an organized setting than like, for instance, a venue, a wedding venue, than to be in a disorganized setting as far as transmitting the disease. And we recognize that we don't want to simply throw open the doors, if you will, but rather use the same smart steps we've taken to provide guidance to other businesses and be clear with these businesses. The time has come to give them the direction, the guidance, and allow them to make the smart investments necessary to reopen, and then provide them the support moving forward. Imagine just for a moment the absolute uncertainty that countless families have as they prepare for school reopening. Yet we made the choice that we would move forward with school reopening. Now compound that and imagine for a moment the business owner, and I'd argue the employee, who has been sitting at home worried that they will never have their livelihoods back, that their businesses will shutter, and that they will not have those job opportunities. Let's put aside the economic impact to the county. It's a real human and financial toll to human beings, individuals who are relying on a paycheck and these businesses to reopen. The state said, the governor said that this would occur, and here we are a month into phase 4, and we still don't have any guidance. I think at this point, demanding and expecting that guidance and direction be given to these businesses is the appropriate thing. We believe a real timeline to reopening makes sense, and we think that we can do that safely. And Dutchess County is willing and more than able to partner with these businesses to address the precautionary steps necessary to ensure that they can safely reopen. So we appreciate your leadership, Senator, and I'm grateful that somehow I figured out how to join your press conference this morning.
Oops, am I on mute? Thank you very much, Marcus. And now I'm going to introduce Greg Beryllia, Executive Director of Nfib, to speak on behalf of his over 10,000 member businesses. Good morning, Greg, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Senator. And it is great to see you in spirits. On behalf of Nfib and our thousands of small business members across the community in New York, I thank Senator Serino for inviting us today. When the world can be short on good news, it's so great to see the Senator in good health and spirits, like I just said. Also, thanks to business owners throughout the valley and across the state taking their time today to be their own best advocate. I don't know all the speakers that are going to follow me, but I've met hundreds of just like them. Risk takers who have the guts to bet on themselves, take a shot, and make their own future. 2020 has stacked the deck against them in a big way. Over the past 5 months, small business owners, like countless other New Yorkers, have sacrificed their own stability and prosperity to support public health, contain the spread of coronavirus, and keep communities safe. The sacrifice is part of the reason that New York is in a far better situation relative to many other states. Our infection rate is below 1%, healthcare capacity is stable, and because of deliberate caution, many industries and regional economies have begun to operate and have done so without another major outbreak. It's been difficult for everyone and continues to be for small businesses, like those you'll hear from. Their livelihoods, personal well-being, and the incomes that support their own families, their employees, and their communities remain cloaked in uncertainty. During the early stages of New York's reopening, independent businesses were often closed while their multinational big box competitors were deemed essential. When you run a small business financed by your own life savings, your loans and leases are personally guaranteed, and your bank account has enough runway for about 6 weeks. Few things can be more essential than the continued operation of your own small business for yourself and your employees. Gyms, bowling alleys, amusement facilities, event venues, and local restaurants have seen 4 phases come and go in New York, but still they remain closed or their operations severely curtailed. To Governor Cuomo's and state health officials' credit, responsibility, caution, and public safety have guided the state's actions to date, and that must continue. But the businesses that remain closed deserve some clarity. They deserve to know why they are closed, but others with indistinguishable operations and risk profiles are open. They deserve to know a general timeline. They deserve the right to plan and prepare. They deserve to be a part of the conversation about their own future. If something is too risky, we can discuss how to make it safe. If not, we can discuss when that's appropriate. Small business owners are problem solvers by nature. With guidance, support, and dialogue from state policy and health officials, let them find their way forward. That's all they're asking. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, County Executive, and thank you for all those voices to come.
Thank you very much, Greg. And I failed to mention at the beginning, because we have, I think about 10 speakers, which is really exciting, but we would like to try to keep it under 2 minutes if we could, so we have time for questions from the reporters at the end. So now you're going to hear from a diverse group of local employers and employees who will speak directly to the impact that the shutdown has had on them. So first I'd like to introduce Jackie Maglamieli. She's the office manager of the Lyceum Theater in Red Hook. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you, Senator. We operate 3 theaters in New York and 2 in Vermont. Our theaters in Vermont are in St. Johnsbury and in Bennington. When we were allowed to open in Vermont in early June at 25% capacity. And then on June 26th, that was increased to 50% capacity. All of our employees wear face masks and gloves. Patrons wear a face mask at all times unless they are seated in the auditorium. Social distancing is enforced. Our staff keeps a seating chart for every show and sanitizes every used seat between shows. The restrooms are monitored. The game machines have been disabled and roped off. Our entrance doors are left open. Since June 26th, there has been no spike in positivity results in Vermont. Opening the theaters has had absolutely no negative impact. Our 3 New York theaters were yanked out of phase 4 without any explanation or guidance after we had hired and begun to train over a dozen new staff members in anticipation of an early July opening. 50 days later, and we still have no explanation. It's unreasonable and illogical in view of the fact that New York is also amongst the lowest of 4 states in positive test results, along with Vermont, Connecticut, and Maine. Theaters in Maine, Connecticut, Vermont, and New Hampshire are all open with no negative impact. When Maine allowed theaters to open on July 1st, the Maine CDC stated that the occupancy in theaters was much safer than indoor seating in bars because of the ease of social distancing in theater auditoriums. It's totally insane that in New York, 50 people may attend a public gathering of any legal sort in a moldy old barn, but those same 50 people cannot watch a film in a clean auditorium that might have 200 or more chairs. Our 3 theaters in the Hudson Valley have lost a total revenue of approximately $1.25 million since March 16th. That loss has hurt many employees, local suppliers, Dutchess and Ulster counties, and the state of New York, and obviously the owners of the theaters, who have had to pump in additional capital to meet expenses. If we reopen tomorrow, it may well take us 2 to 3 years to recuperate. We are in the happiness business. Everyone knows that movies and popcorn with our real butter makes people happy. We would just ask the governor to let us make people happy, and we will open safely.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Great points. And now I'd like to introduce the fitness industry representatives. First, we have Dave Kenyon of Gold's Gym. Good morning, Dave, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator Serino. It's been 150 days since we have been closed with no word of when we're going to be able to reopen. We have started this business with our family My father-in-law, Bill Austin, 42 years ago here in Dutchess County. We employ over 200 people in our 2 locations. And like most businesses, quite a few of them become like family. Almost every health and fitness center in New York is family owned and operated for the most part. Physical activity saves lives and protects health. There are almost 2,100 health and fitness centers in New York, employing close to 90,000 residents in all parts of the state. These fitness centers help more than 4.6 million people stay healthy, active, and strong. Although we have done what we can to help our communities through various social media and online channels, many of those millions of people are now all alone on their journey to continue their healthy lifestyle. It is no secret that staying fit is extremely important for a variety of reasons. The most glaring of these reasons right now being to boost and keep a strong immune system, a healthy body, and a relaxed mind. By keeping gyms closed, all these people are more susceptible to the anguish that COVID-19 brings. Reopening health and fitness centers will not cause COVID-19 to increase, but rather will make certain that they stay down. Governor Cuomo has said numerous times that New Yorkers need to be responsible and do the right thing to keep the spread of COVID-19 in check. The reopening plan submitted by the New York State Fitness Alliance that we are now part of and created includes extensive safety protocols for employees, members, and contractors. This plan meets or exceeds CDC, DOH, and OSHA guidelines, and includes protocols for assisting the state in contact tracing efforts. It was also reviewed favorably by a third-party infectious disease specialist. We are ready to responsibly open and not only stop the spread of the virus, but help people recover from it and make them stronger for the future. Governor Cuomo has done a great job getting the state to this point. And so we ask that he lets us, the small businesses that are the heart and soul of the state, take it from here. We promise to do everything in our power to continue bringing the number of infections down, and we are confident that it can be done if he gives us the chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. And now I'd like to introduce Christy Rettel of Wallsport. Good morning, Christy.
Thank you so much for organizing this. This is, I hope, will make a difference in our community. I'm Christy Rettel. I am a managing partner with my sisters of Allsport Health and Fitness. We're an 80,000 square foot facility, 250 employees, which we have laid off approximately 240. We have over 6,500 memberships. We've been in business for 40 years. We really worked with other health clubs across the country for a reopening plan. And what we did was we put together a plan and we looked at other industries to see what they were doing to make sure we were going to be safe for our employees and our members. We have redesigned the club where the equipment is 6 feet apart. We're going to take temperatures the minute you walk in, and we can actually track our members. So we know who's in the club when, so if there ever is a breakout, we can actually trace the people. That being said, there's been over 49 million check-ins across the country, and 0.002 have actually had cases. So the number is very minimal. What we also did was we bought the Halo filters, which purifies the air in the club. We have 32 air conditioning units, and we purchased them so every room will be safe for our members and for our employees. We also did medical grade defoggers, which we can sterilize all our surfaces. We have limited as to what the socialization would be. We're actually looking at our schedules to make sure that we do not have enough people in the club. Our locker rooms will be closed. We are willing to go by any guideline the governor is willing to tell us. The problem is there's been no communication. He has gone radio silent. These plans have been put in place, they have been submitted, and nothing has been given back to us. And I think that is the most frustrating thing because we're hearing more from other governors from other states. We also know that some of our members are going to Connecticut to work out. So that's kind of like where we are at this time.
Okay, thank you so much, Christy. So, and as we all know, not all health and fitness centers are built the same, and we wanted to show you why a one-size-fits-all approach just doesn't work. So next, I'd like you to meet from Stoneway Yoga in Poughkeepsie, owner Liz Grover Wilson. Liz, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you, Senator Serino. My name is Liz Glover Wilson, and I own 2 yoga studios in the Hudson Valley, one in Dutchess County and one in Ulster. I had to lay off 32 instructors, and I am still closed. Today, I'm representing independent yoga studios, schools, and instructors in the state of New York. 1 month ago, there were 641 registered yoga schools listed with the Yoga Alliance. As of yesterday, that number has dropped by 100, illustrating closures and/or financial hardship decisions. Yoga studios employ 11,095 registered instructors in the state of New York. Senator, a recent study noted that there are 36 million people practicing yoga in the United States today. Americans spend $16 billion a year on yoga. Some statistics put yoga as having a $4 billion impact on the New York State economy annually. We are a relevant industry. 94% of practitioners do yoga for wellness-related reasons. Yoga is healthcare, providing physical, mental, and emotional health and balance for practitioners. Yoga helps to reduce stress and anxiety, improves our mental resilience, decreases physical pain, reduces inflammation, strengthens our immunity system, and strengthens our community. Yoga also functions as a complementary therapy for cancer treatments, surgery, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and ADHD. Yoga helps kids cope with stress and learn patience, acceptance, and forgiveness, something we all need to remember to practice. Yoga and meditation are ancient techniques and scientific teachings similar to jiu-jitsu, qigong, martial arts, and gymnastics. And while we have seen these studios open, we question why yoga studios remain closed, ignored, and miscategorized as gyms and other fitness centers. We have not been given a clear reason why we should not open. We have been provided no additional funding to survive as small businesses. Senator, we can and will have open spaces with no shared equipment. We can and will operate with no physical interaction. We can and will maintain social distancing. We can and will control the length of class and monitor all our activities. We can and will keep our environment sterilized and follow all the CDC rules. Our environments are safe. We are the wellness industry. As you said, not all fitness environments are the same, just like all restaurant environments are not the same. So today, I am asking the governor to allow yoga studios, as he has martial arts, qigong, jiu-jitsu, and gymnastics schools, to be given the choice and the right to open mindfully. Senator, please know that with these restrictions, I would be opening at 18% capacity. And as a businesswoman today, I'd rather be open at 18% and stay relevant, providing wellness and healthcare to my community than be ignored and forgotten in the overall narrative. Thank you for inviting me here today.
Liz, thank you so much, and thanks for your great data and your points. I really appreciate it. And now I'd like to introduce Amy Hardesty. She owns Whitehall Events, a wedding planning business here in Poughkeepsie. Good morning, Amy.
Good morning, Sue, and thank you so much for hosting this important press conference. Like so many, the wedding industry has been brought to a screeching halt by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a planner, I've had to pivot and adapt. I've had to lay off an employee that has been with me for 5 years. I don't have day of event work to offer my seasonal contracted employees. I've had to renegotiate contracts. I've had to redesign events. But most of all, I've had to console couples and tell them that everything will be okay. I have listened to my clients' fears while concealing my own fears, because as a planner, we are used to having answers. Governor Cuomo isn't giving us any answers. He hasn't even entered into a dialogue with our industry. We aren't being given a phase, a roadmap, a benchmark, or a goal. We are not being told what our parameters for getting back to work will be, or if we will get back to work. The common misconception is that wedding vendors, including venues, are deferring income to postpone events, when the reality is that the majority of our operating costs largely remain whether we are executing events now or not. These postponed events are not only deferring payments to 2021 and even 2022, but are eating into our opportunity costs for next year, making both 2020 and 2021 a loss. 2.5 million people get married every year. We can't create more than 52 weekends in a year to host events for our clients. We can't triple book wedding dates in the future. We can't tell couples to just wait to start their new lives, especially if we don't know when a safe future date is going to be in sight. These couples have lost money, they've lost time, and they're being told by Albany, we just haven't gotten to you yet. A wedding isn't simply another event, it's the beginning of a new family. How can we continue to tell these couples to just wait when Albany isn't even having the conversation about how we will hold safe events in the future? The ripple effect of keeping the event industry shut down has not been taken into account. Producing a single event often includes upwards of 15 to 25 separate vendors, each representing their own small business. All events are collaborations between small businesses, including event planners, venues, dress retailers, florists, designers, caterers, bands, DJs, decor companies, transportation companies, rental companies, photographers, videographers, venues, lighting companies, invitation designers, bakeries, sound companies, live event artists, hotels, and so many more. Not to mention the 70 million wedding guests annually are not purchasing wedding gifts for these couples, representing a huge loss in the retail market. 12 million people are left unemployed in the event industry, which, to put into perspective, is more than the population of the state of Ohio and 43 other states in the United States of America. We need to be given a roadmap to reopening. We want to know what the rules will be. We want to plan safe events. We want to be effective partners in ensuring that events can happen safely. We do not want clients to give up and plan their own backyard get-together without guidance or guidelines. More than anything, we want to get back to work, because despite being a part of a $72 billion wedding industry, we are not big businesses. We have not been bailed out, and we have not been addressed in any reopening plan. You cannot leave 12 million Americans that make up the event industry unemployed, uninformed, unqualified for adequate aid, and unable to make a living. You cannot continue to tell 2.5 million couples, we just haven't gotten to it yet. We are asking Governor Cuomo to please address our industry. We want to work with you. We need a plan. We can host weddings safely. Making plans and executing them is what we event planners do best. Please work with us and please get us back to work.
Thank you so much, Amy, and a lot of great points. I think most people don't realize how many lives are touched, how many employers are touched just with one business. So now I'd like to introduce a caterer, Mike Polisnak from Simply Gourmet in Poughkeepsie. Hi, Mike, and thank you for being here.
Hi, Senator. Thank you so much for inviting me. So like many of the industries that we're hearing from today, in the catering industry, as Amy just said, has been decimated. I know for our business particularly, we've lost 80% of our revenue so far this year. And if you compare that to last year, because we had so much growth this year, it's been over 100% of what we did last year, which is basically our whole business. Getting guidance from the state has at times just been impossible. Interestingly, if you search through the phase 3 and 4 guidelines that are out there, and do a simple search, there is no word catering, no word event, no word wedding, nothing, just zero that's out there. In addition, we just have no idea what kind of a timeline we could even expect to get the guidance. On numerous occasions, we have asked the state for clarification and just have never gotten answers. And so unfortunately, what we're left with is having to interpret it ourselves. And we're trying to do the best we can, but it really leaves us open to disciplinary actions, without warning if we do it wrong, which we've seen many times the governor do throughout the state. The one clarification I feel like we've gotten so far is from when last Friday, a federal judge in the Northern District ordered an injunction on the 50-person limit on gatherings for weddings, saying that it can be larger. Of course, a week later, still nothing from the governor's office or the state regarding that decision. Just a complete lack of communication, which unfortunately is something that we've gotten used to. And something else I think that's that I've tried in a sense, and a lot of businesses have really had to take an out of the box approach to this, right? We're not able to do business as we can with the lack of guidance. So what I tried to do in the past couple months is work diligently on trying to get the ability to utilize my catering liquor license like a restaurant would, and open as a restaurant, say a pop-up restaurant, to use my space, use my staff. I've worked directly with the state liquor authority. I've worked with your office, Senator Serino. I've worked with the county executive's office in Ron Hicks to try to work directly with the state to try to see if we can't make that happen as an out-of-the-box approach. Again, zero answers, zero communication back about it. So like many of the business owners on here, we're left just sitting here with the loss of our business, having to lay off, staff. To Amy's point about, the clients that we've had to work with, it's been really difficult on them. And we've done the best we can to kind of guide them through it. But the way we're guiding them through it is without guidance. So it's been really difficult. So, like everyone else on this call, we asked the governor and the state to really kind of give us some answers, give us some guidelines, give us some sort of a timeline, and so that we can see a future and hopefully, get back to doing business. And of course, we'll do it absolutely as safe as we possibly can. So thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate all your help.
Thank you so much, Mike. And now I believe Joe Benora is on, and Joe is from the Grandview and Shadows and a few more places here in the Hudson Valley. So Joe, thank you very much for being here today.
Senator, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you all for your comments so far. I apologize, I wasn't able to join until about 9:30. I don't want to repeat everything that has been said about our catering and event and hospitality industry, but I do have some new things to talk about. Our family's been in business, in this business for 48 years. We've grown in the Hudson Valley from 1 location to 9. We had over 1,200 employees at one point. It was one of the saddest days, as we all are aware, back in March, to have to lay off hundreds and hundreds of people. But then we started working on plans to get back reopened, and we all thought in the event industry we'd be open by July. Phase 4. Okay, we'll be open by then. And we got as we all know, we've got the kind of rug pulled out from underneath us. There's 2 things I want to hone in on, and Amy really did a great job. So thank you for your comments. But reopening safely, the state has done, whether we all agree with everything the governor has done or not, we can agree that the numbers of the virus transmission have gone down significantly. So we all, as an industry, need to reopen safely. And I think that's what everyone wants to do. The one thing I want to hone in on that Amy brought up is the events that are going to be taking place in people's backyards. So we know it. We had, as of July, we had still remaining 327 weddings booked at our venues for the remainder of 2020. We had over 600, but many of them moved to next year. Well, love isn't dead. People that moved from the spring to the fall and now can't do their wedding at our venues are doing them in their backyard by the hundreds. We know that it's coming. It hasn't started yet. Just a couple of backyard parties have really taken place this summer, but there will be hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of backyard weddings this fall with no social distancing, no masks. I mean, maybe they'll do it on their own, but probably not. Why would they? They have no one there. They have no risk. They don't have a liquor license to protect or a health department permit that we do. So all the caterers and all of the event planners and all of the event venues that are on this call, we can help this state prevent the second wave if we are allowed to reopen with the same rules as restaurants. And someone brought up that lawsuit, I think it was Mike brought that up, that the verdict came out on Friday. We're actively working to get that clarified to make sure that those rules apply to the whole state, not just those 2 weddings. Of course, we'd love to have dancing. Of course, we'd love to have weddings like we're used to. But at this point, that's just not in the cards. And I don't think as an industry, we're advocating for that. We're advocating, let us host more than 50 people. If you could do it in a restaurant, you could do it in a large catering space, outdoors under a tent or indoors under a huge ballroom. There is a way to host these events safely. And the time is now before it's too late, Senator. And you and I have talked about this. If the state doesn't act now, these weddings are planned out 8, 10, 12 weeks in advance or more. I mean, but that's just the time that the invitations are sent out. People plan weddings 12 to 18 months in advance. If we don't act right now, the entire fall will not only be economic devastation for us and our industry, but there's going to be a real health problem. And the state probably doesn't see that coming because they don't have the inside information that we do from our industry. I think that's all I have to say without repeating what everyone else has said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Joe. And I know Nick and John Krekel from Villa Barone are on the line. I didn't know if they were going to add anything to the comments that were made on the wedding industry.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Joe, well said. And it's so true. This whole craziness of not having any guidelines is just destroying us all and destroying our industry. And as Joe said, the majority of our tenants are just demanding money back, and which we don't have because there's been zero cash flow for over 160 days. I mean, we're small compared to the Bonora Group, but I employ 70 people in Putnam County. I have a 70,000 square foot facility with one of my ballrooms being able to accommodate almost 600 guests. Even if I was working at 20%, I'm at 200 guests at 30% occupancy, which as we can enforce social distancing and proper management tools that would be given to us by the state. When the churches sued the state and they won, saying that they're able to accommodate 50% of their parishioners in gatherings, the governor's office didn't have an agency like the SLA to strong arm them, God forbid they mislead or don't correct. With us, we're pinned against the wall that, like as Joe Bonora has said, the slightest mistake that someone makes, we're penalized without any advance notice, and our liquor license is removed, which that costs $5,000 to $10,000 a year alone just to maintain. We have restaurants that are less than 1,000 square feet hosting over 200 dinners an evening, and everyone's doing it correctly with social distancing, yet we have a 70,000 square foot facility and we can't host more than 50. It just doesn't make any sense. We strongly need guidelines because, as Mr. Bonora said, our brides are demanding their money back and now hosting events in their backyards. I know a wedding going on this weekend with 200 people in their backyards. There's no sanitation areas or masks or anyone enforcing any sort of guideline. And it's scary because it's gonna promote that second wave, which this state and this economy cannot handle. We are on the verge of, all of us in this industry, of collapse. I've lost already 50% of my staff, which had to change careers and find other avenues for revenue to support their families. And I myself and my brother and our families are on unemployment. We have to pay the bills. And it's just crazy that there is no guideline for us when I know as business owners, we can enforce what the guidelines given to us, and we will be able to continue in the proper way. So thank you very much for your time and for everyone as well.
Thank you, Nick. And you brought up a great point. You know, it's hard enough to get a liquor license and then for them to rip it right out from underneath your feet. You know, with the threat of that, it's not good. So now I'd like to introduce Bill Diamond of Spins Bowling. Thank you, Bill, for being here today. We're just unmuting. No. Sorry, folks. We're just trying to see. Maybe Bill stepped away for a minute. Bill, if you can you unmute on your end? That might be at the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Okay, you know, we're going to move to the last speaker, unless, you know, if Bill can come back on after, that's fine. So finally, of Headless Horseman Hayride, I want to introduce you to someone who has had communication with the state, yet has still been left in limbo. Michael Juby. Michael, thanks so much for being here today. Mike, you have to unmute yourself. It's the bottom left-hand side of your screen. So you have to unmute your phone. I think you're calling in. If you can hear me, Mike. Mike?
If you're calling in, use *6 to unmute.
Oh, you *6 to unmute. Sorry, thank you. If you heard that, Michael, you got to hit *6 to unmute. Huh. Was Bill Diamond
Hi,
able?
Sue, it's Michael Jupe. Can you hear me?
Michael, now we can hear you. Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, I apologize. I'm computer and telephone illiterate. I've been listening, and I think everybody has made some great points. We're a little bit unique. Like Mark, our county exec has tried to help a little bit. They set up 2 phone calls with the Empire State Development Division, and we had to send them our safety plan and then call back. They called us back about 4 days later, and after having a rather lengthy conversation with the lady, she said, well, it comes down to your NAICS code, and your code is theatrical, so you can't open. If anything changes, we'll get back to you. Well, we started this business 28 years ago. No, I didn't know what an NAICS code is, and probably most of us on this call don't know what that is. But that's like gymnasiums, they're titled gymnasiums. Restaurants are titled restaurants. They wanted to put us in amusement parks. Amusement park is a fair. It has rides, games of chance. We don't have any of that. So they said, how about theaters? I said, well, okay, we'll go with theaters. Of course, back then the code didn't need anything. So now we're in the theaters. We are outdoors. We are really not theatrical. What we should be is agritourism. But nobody can tell me how to change my code. So there are other outdoor theaters that are open. There are other haunts in the state that are advertising that they're open and hiring. The Empire State Development said, yeah, you're low risk. Everything's good. You have a great plan, but we'll call you back. There is no code for haunted attraction. If they close us down, we're going to be closed for 20 months before we can open again. We can comply. We're going to take out our hayride. We're going to do a walkthrough. I have 70 rolls of fencing that I don't need. I have a pallet full of sanitizer that I don't need. I have insurance on my property that I don't need. We've been doing social distancing before there was the word social distancing. We put small groups to our haunted houses at a time. We have time ticketing. And one thing that really upsets, well, there's many things that upset me, but everyone's been to a hotel, a restaurant, a wedding venue, Home Depot or Lowe's or a grocery store. But not everyone has been to an attraction like a haunted attraction such as ours. Yet these people are telling us that we can't open, that we can't do this safely. They've never been here. As I told a reporter one time years ago, if you're going to do a story on the Yankees, you may want to go and watch a baseball game. So I don't know how we can change our codes, but that is the sticking point for us. We're a little unique. They don't have a place to put us. So they put us in theatrical, and I know for a fact there are some other outdoor theatrical venues that are opening, and when you try to do it correctly, that's when you get kicked in the butt. So, I don't want to waste your time, but I appreciate your working on this and giving me an opportunity to say something.
Thank you very much, Michael. And I just want to double check to see if Bill Diamond was able to come back, if he was able to. I don't know if he stepped away. He's from Oh, I think you're just joining now, Bill. Spins bowling. If you can hear me, if you go to the bottom of your screen and if you're on a phone, then you're going to hit *6 to to be able to unmute yourself. You can hear me, Bill, because we wanted to have somebody from the bowling alley speak. I don't know if Bill was able to get in though. Okay. So I guess I would just want to say thank you to everybody, but I also want to read the list of attendees that were here, that are here today. Oh, Bill, is that you? No. Okay. We have Frank Costello, the President and CEO of Dutchess County Regional Chamber of Commerce, and Jennifer Marr, Chair of the Putnam County Business Council. They've both done an amazing job with working with our local businesses and keeping everybody informed. Thank you so much. We have Alexandra Peditella and John Gregorio from Orange Theory Fitness, Hudson Valley. We have Mike Ortega from Mike Ortega's Health and Fitness Center. Thank you, Mike. Steve Ferris from Fit Social. Mary Rose Donahue from Firefly Power Yoga. Don Murphy, who is the Vice Chairman of the New York State Fitness Alliance. Joe Chato from World Gym in Brewster. Stacy Tompkins from Tompkins Excavating in Putnam. Michael Bucci, Vice Chair-elect of the Putnam County Business Council. Kelly Rettel, Hardesty Guardian Self-Storage. James Stark, owner of Hudson Valley Ceremonies, and Karen Canova, owner of Kismet at Karen's, a great little store to shop in Cold Spring. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you that are here. And also, as we close, before the reporters are going to ask their questions, you know, when Albany asked these businesses to shut down to help save lives, they all did their part. Now it's time for the state to keep its promise and do everything it can to help them survive. So now I'd like to open it to questions from the reporters. And if the reporters could say your name and where you're from, that would be awesome. So thank you. And thank you very much for being a part of this today. It's so important. Okay, who'd like to go first? Karen Duet. Good morning, Karen.
Use this thing.
We just unmuted you. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, you have to unmute on your screen.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly. Yes, that's great. Thank you, Karen.
Okay. I'm using a very funny system to record, so it's difficult. I put my question in the chat, and I put the quote of Cuomo, what he said last Thursday about gyms being highly problematic and other states have had to close them, and that there's supposedly data that shows that gyms are problematic. So I was hoping you guys could respond to that.
Can I say something, Karen? You know, nobody else has shut down like we did. We know that. Everybody just shut down and that's something that I'd like to hear from anybody.
Hey, Sue. I can tell you some of the data. Karen, I'm Christy Rettel from All Sport. I sit on a roundtable with 20 other business owners across the country. The only state that was shut down was California, and they were in with the restaurants. They were not shut down because of COVID cases reported in the health clubs. The number that I had quoted earlier, where it was 49.4 million check-ins and 0.002, that came from Medallia, who keeps track of the check-ins from the different clubs that are part. There was over 300 clubs that they included in those check-ins. So when Cuomo is saying that, I'm not sure what data he is looking at. Now, if anybody else wants to jump in who's in the health club, we have not seen that, and based on the plans that are put in place.
Sue, can I for if I could for a moment, you know, Sue, and Karen, the counties are responsible for, in essence, implementing the policy that the state has put forward. And I, as you know, and Karen knows, we are on daily calls. We call them the control room. I think it's a bit of a misnomer, but daily calls. We have never been provided data to suggest any higher risk for these businesses. And I'll tell you, even in the cases where we've made a direct request, as the governor and the state has moved forward to reopen, for the data that they've used to make that decision making, we're not provided it. Our commissioner of health is an infectious disease doctor. He spent his life preparing, in essence, and studying infectious disease. We don't have data to suggest that the businesses that we're advocating for at this point are of any higher risk. In fact, with the precautionary steps that we know they can take, and you've heard some of them already speak to that, we believe that they can function safely. And as was mentioned, there are risks with keeping certain businesses closed. We know that it's hard to manage social gatherings in a private setting, or home or otherwise. So we're prepared to work with the businesses to keep them safe and to ensure that customers are safe. But there is no data provided us to help make those control room decisions. And we've asked for weeks.
Thank you, Mark. So I know Don Murphy wanted to jump in here too.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And Karen, to respond to your question, first, well, two things. One, there's definitely a common theme that's happening across all of our industries that remain closed. And that theme is there is yet to be an approved guideline or a plan from the governor to allow us to reopen. And the frustrating part is that many of our industries have put together safe reopening protocols and guidelines that we truly believe are safe and that are looked upon as safe. So if there's something that's missing from those plans, well, there needs to be a transparent, open dialogue so that we can address whatever it is that's concerning them, make the changes that are needed, and then get reopened. Now, on that note, Karen, to your specific question about the governor's data, Christie has said it very well. We're not aware of what he's referring to. So to make a broad-based statement such as that, but not back it up with the actual data that we're seeking to have the dialogue, to make the changes, this is about finding solutions, not keeping industries shut down forever. Let's have the dialogue that's needed to find the solutions that are acceptable to everyone and keeping everyone safe. On the plan that was submitted by the New York State Fitness Alliance, this is a very comprehensive plan for our industry. And I want to share the findings. I'm gonna read just a quick quote here from a third-party infectious disease professor that was retained to review this plan, Dr. Ravi Durvasula from the Loyola University Medical Center in Chicago. His findings on our plan were as follows. I have reviewed coronavirus mitigation practices at a variety of public venues, including nursing homes, restaurants, bars, and department stores. Your proposal is one of the most thorough approaches I have encountered, and I concur with your plans. So based on that, we know it's comprehensive. We know it's accepted by infectious disease expertise. What is it that he's referring to? The last thing I would point out is if you look at the state of Connecticut, Connecticut has one of the best coronavirus cases or case numbers in the country. They are continuing to decline. Their numbers are fantastic, relatively speaking. And their fitness centers have been open for well over a month. So they're not seeing issues or problems in many states where fitness centers have reopened. And the same can be said for all of our industries. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don. I know Jen Marr, I think, wanted to add something too. Jen?
Yeah, just quickly, I want to, as far as what County Executive Marcus Molinaro spoke of, I know our county government feels the same exact way. And just one thing that really hasn't been mentioned, it's really the limbo and the unknowing. I know a lot of these business owners personally, it's a small county and we've become friends or we've been friends. And the problem is they've also spent a ton of money in preparation. So it's not just the loss. They all did the right thing, got their businesses prepared, and now it's sitting there and they will probably have to redo a lot of that they've already spent money on in order to be able to open. It's just a very unfair situation. And thank you so much for putting this together.
Thank you, Jen. And I think, most people are not small business owners, so they don't get it. and the people that are making these decisions haven't stopped getting a paycheck. So people should put themselves in other people's positions when you don't have any money coming in. It's really scary. So I thank everybody for being here. I'm going to open it up to some more questions. Is someone else? I'm sorry, Karen, do you have a follow-up after hearing from everybody? No? Okay, thank you very much. Are any of the other reporters on the line that would like to ask some questions?
Yeah, so, hi. Hank Gross here from Mid-Hudson News. How are you?
Great, how are you? Thanks for being here.
Good, thank you. One observation for everybody. You have places like massage parlors, which are now open, and I heard strip joints are now allowed to be open. But yet, when you talk about catering halls and the yoga studios and so on, it seems to be a disconnect in Albany with what might be good for society and what might not be good for society. Any reaction to that from anyone?
I'd like to answer that one.
Senator, if you don't mind, this is Liz Glover Wilson from Stoneway Yoga, just on behalf of all independent yoga studios. Thank you so much, sir. To further illustrate this confusion, I think the yoga studios have been sitting around in the last few weeks wondering how martial arts, Qigong, Jiu-Jitsu, and gymnastics schools are opened. And all of these have shared equipment and have been deemed safe to open with restriction. Like Jennifer said, we have all yoga studios have prepared. We are wellness focused. We would never invite our participants to come into our studios if it wasn't safe. Yoga studios are open in Texas with no connected increase in cases associated with their opening. The governor of New Jersey allowed yoga studios to be open based on their categorization. It goes without saying that he would not have allowed them to open if they were indeed a threat to the environment. So we would argue that these are just some illustrations of examples that yoga studios should operate and could operate under the CDC regulations and are not a threat. We remain confused, as many of us expressed on this call, that we have been ignored and completely discriminated against.
Thank you, Liz. Sorry.
Sue?
Yes.
Mike Ortega. I don't know how to jump in, so hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you.
I just wanted to emphasize one point because I don't think that the nail has been hit on the head hard enough, and that is that if the governor has any, there is no evidence of gyms and yoga facilities, et cetera, being venues where there's high risk of spreading COVID. There is no evidence of that. So where he gets, and Marcus said we've asked for the examples of what he is basing this on, he comes up with nothing. So I just want to emphasize that point. Where he's getting this from, God knows. If he has some evidence, we'd love to see it. But as far as we know, there is no evidence of our facilities being high-risk facilities. And then with the level of compliance that we plan on adopting, that lowers it even further. I think that point bears emphasis.
Yeah, no, that's an important point, Mike. Thank you. Did anybody, I don't know if there's any other reporters that have some questions for us today? We're good? Okay. I don't know if anybody had any follow-up or for us. Is everybody, I guess everybody's good. I can't thank you enough.
Sue, I'm sorry. Hi, it's Ryan Dutcher.
Hi, Ryan, how are you?
I'm wonderful. So for those of you that may not know who I am, I'm an illusionist from the Hudson Valley. So I'm an entertainer that currently can't perform in theaters. I also work for iHeartMedia on Q92. My real question is, and maybe it's my lack of knowledge, and I'm totally comfortable admitting that. We're all here talking about how, I can perform at a resort, but I can't go to a theater. I can perform at a campground, but I can't, so like there's so many uncertainties and so many questions that are unknown. If we're not getting answers from the governor, who is the next in charge? Like, who can we, can the people, go against and not impeach, but what's the next step to, get these answers? Because obviously the phase 4 plan is now however long and past, and we're not getting anything, and we're all losing money. And, you know, so if someone could maybe educate me on what the next step is there, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and you know, this is one of the things I think that everybody's mentioned today. There has been absolutely no communication, right, when you call. So there are no answers. But the local government, of course, we have Marcus still on, is in charge of enforcement. So I don't know, because it starts at the top, but I don't know, Marcus, if you want to reply to that.
Oh yeah, thanks, Sue. I tried. As Sue knows, both the New York State Constitution, but also the two majorities in the state legislature provided this governor enormous authority. He has now the final say. There is no other except litigation. And there are those who have taken litigation. However, even in the most recent court decision, most of those decisions are limited to the litigants, not necessarily having broader impact. I will tell you that our economic development team, and you all know this, led by Ron Hicks, you know, we've been as creative as we can to find both either lack of language in the governor's orders. In fact, we've been, as Ryan knows, been going back and forth on certain theatrical performances. The state on one hand says one thing can happen, but in writing says one thing can happen, and then verbally says it can't. Our position is if it's not written, then it doesn't matter. So write it down so that we can communicate it. And then, of course, within the same, I think, 24 hours of arguing that certain theatrical things couldn't happen, the very governor's office promoted a theatrical performance that was happening in the Hudson Valley. So it is that kind of contradictory messaging that is just obviously frustrating, and it's really problematic. The short answer is the state legislature could, the majorities could regain some of that authority, but the law is pretty clear. Executives do have the ability in an emergency to limit certain activities. We just think at this point the right answer is to give guidance, and as they have done with every other business and every other industry to some degree, and the failure to do so is not only putting at risk businesses, but it's going to shutter businesses and keep people out of work, but also threatening public health. And so keep pushing and keep reaching out. I can tell you they don't like these sorts of things, so they do react. They'll react to us, and hopefully the next reaction will be to move forward with the guidance necessary to get your businesses up and running. We think that they can function safely. The state has our commitment that at the local level, Putnam, Dutchess, Ulster, Orange, Rockland, the Sullivan, the Mid-Hudson region, we're prepared to work with you to make these things happen safely. And as was said just moments ago, it's not like we're functioning in a vacuum. We have states in the region, Connecticut among them, Connecticut, New Jersey, and others, who have made decisions to advance these businesses and aren't seeing any increase in cases. In fact, in Connecticut's case, has been really on a steady decline. We think we can have the same reaction, the same effect. The last thing I'll say without going too long is just, as I think maybe Carrie had said, but others have pointed to, our residents live in a region where you travel outside of the region. You are going to Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey from the Mid-Hudson region, and our residents are going there now to conduct their business. Not only taking their resources with them, but if there's a public health concern, which clearly there can't be because you're not restricted from traveling to those states, then they're certainly, in essence, moving across borders where maybe the disease transmits. We just know that in the case of these businesses, they can function safely. We recognize the region that we live in, and frankly, I believe that we can monitor and work with the businesses who are creative and bold in taking the necessary steps to keep safe and to reopen. We want to save lives while allowing people to get back to living their lives.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is that we need state, and it starts at the top. The state has to move forward on this, and they're just not doing it. And I know all of you have each tried to call the state, as you've said, not getting any answers, but hopefully this message gets out there loud and clear. I think we had 9 or 10 reporters on today, and that's why I was glad that we had a wide variety of businesses that haven't been allowed to open, and you're kind of left in the dust. And like I said before, the people that are making these decisions are getting paychecks. They don't feel it. You guys do. So I don't just want to check if anybody else. I think we're good right now.
If I may say one thing, as Mr. Benora said, last Friday, the Honorable Judge Sotheby in the Northern District Federal Court awarded a catering hall and a few couples the decision where they could go ahead and host their wedding event more than 50 people. Not more than 2 days after the governor's office filed an appeal to stop that injunction. I just feel as if instead of working with us and providing us guidelines, and because we do have, in retrospect, one of the best numbers in the country as far as keeping this under control. As the governor's office, I'm just pleading on behalf of all the business owners that are on the last limb of survival, that the governor's office, instead of appealing and fighting us the right to just conduct our business in a professional manner, to just at least issue us guidance and give us the tools that we need so that we can reopen and survive. You know, and I want to thank you and the senators that continue to advocate for us in a time of need.
Thank you, Nick. I just want to say thank you to everybody for participating today, and talk to everybody soon, I'm sure. Thank you, and thanks to the media. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.